My father held my business card over the steakhouse table like evidence of a crime. "Did you make these at Staples?" He laughed, passing it to his partners. Then he read the title, Chief Technology Officer. One partner smirked. The other went pale. My mother lowered her eyes. My brother reached for wine. I took the card back, slid it into my purse, and said, "Enjoy your dinner." 10 minutes later, from the car, I emailed our general counsel, "Terminate all legal services with Martinez Associates." Before I reached home, Dad had 2 missed calls and no idea why they were from his managing partner. The box of new business cards arrived at my office the afternoon before my birthday. My assistant set it beside my laptop and smiled. They finally fixed the title. I opened the lid. Thick white stock, raised lettering, Alice Parker, Chief Technology Officer. For a second, I just ran my thumb over the words, not because I needed the reminder. By then, I was already leading more than 140 engineers across 3 countries. I spent my days moving between security reviews, product failures, hiring decisions, and the kind of meetings where one quiet sentence could redirect millions of dollars. But the card made it real in a way my family never had. At 5, I was still in a glass conference room, listening to a young engineer explain why a rollout needed to be delayed. He was nervous. His coffee shook slightly in his hand. "Slow down," I told him. "Show me what you found." He did. He was right. We delayed the launch, fixed the issue, and saved ourselves from a mess no one outside that room would ever know existed. That was my job. Not computer help. Not playing with gadgets. Not the phase my father kept waiting for me to outgrow. When I was 17, Robert Martinez told me women rarely made it to the top in technology. He skipped my college graduation for a client meeting. When I got my first job paying nearly $70,000 a year, he laughed and called it a decent starter salary. Every promotion after that disappeared at the family dinner table. Senior engineer became Jason's latest surgery. Director became Megan's new house. By the time I made CTO at 29, I had stopped telling them anything. My phone buzzed. "Mom, please don't talk too much about work tonight. Your father's under pressure." Then Megan. "Wear something nice. Dad invited 2 partners. Finally. Dad, be on time. This dinner matters. Not my birthday. The dinner." I slipped 3 business cards into the old leather wallet I had carried since my first job. Then I turned off the office lights and caught my reflection in the dark glass. For one foolish second, I hoped this year might be different. On my desk, 1 card remained under the soft blue glow of my monitor. I heard my father laughing before the hostess opened the private dining room. That laugh always carried the same message: Robert Martinez was in control, and everyone else was there to appreciate it. He sat at the center of the table beneath a brass light fixture, one hand resting beside a glass of bourbon. Jason was describing a difficult surgery. Megan was talking about a client dinner in New York. Mom smiled whenever Dad did. 2 of his partners were already there. Eric Lawson gave me a quick glance and returned to his drink. Brian Cole stood to shake my hand. "Birthday girl," he said. "What do you do?" I opened my mouth. Dad answered first. "Alice handles basic computer support," he said. "She's still figuring out what direction she wants to take." Jason looked down at the menu. Megan adjusted her napkin. Mom whispered, "Robert," but there was no warning in her voice, just habit. I stared at my father. He had not asked about my work in years, yet he said it with complete confidence. Brian gave me an uncertain smile. "Technology changes fast, so I've heard," I said. Dad laughed again. Dinner moved on without me. He told Eric about Jason's hospital appointment. He praised Megan's husband for understanding real finance. When I mentioned that my team had delayed a major product launch that afternoon, Dad waved a hand. People overcomplicate these computer things to make them sound important. A server arrived with the wrong side dish. Dad snapped his fingers. "This isn't what I ordered." The young man apologized and reached for the plate. "You people need to pay attention," Dad said loudly. The server's face tightened, but he stayed polite. I watched him leave and felt something settle heavily in my chest. Dad did not treat me like a disappointment because I was his daughter. He treated anyone he considered beneath him the same way. By dessert, the table smelled of coffee, warm chocolate, and expensive cologne. Dad was telling a story about winning a case 10 years earlier when I reached into my purse to pay my share. 3 business cards slid from my wallet and landed beside his plate. He picked one up before I could. His eyes moved across the raised lettering, then his mouth curled into a grin. "Did you make these at Staples?" Eric laughed first. Dad turned the card toward both partners. Chief Technology Officer. He read slowly, stretching each word until it sounded ridiculous. "Alice, you can't just print yourself an executive title." Brian's expression changed. "Not amusement. Recognition." Dad kept going. "This is embarrassing. Someone might actually believe you." No one stopped him. Mom studied her plate. Jason reached for his wine. Megan would not meet my eyes. I took the card from Dad's hand. The edge had bent beneath his thumb. "Enjoy your dinner," I said. Then I walked out while the birthday candle burned behind me. The car seat felt cold through my dress. I shut the door, kicked off my heels, and placed the bent business card on the dashboard. Under the parking lot lights, the crease across my title looked almost deliberate. My phone lit up before I could breathe. "Mom, please don't make this worse." Jason Dad was joking. Megan Yu embarrassed everyone by leaving. Not one message asked whether I was all right. I opened my work email. Emily Harris, our general counsel, answered on the second ring. "Alice, is this about Martinez and Associates?" "Yes." I told her exactly what happened. No dramatic language, no family history, just the facts, the private dining room, the 2 partners, my father holding up my card, the accusation that I had invented my title. Emily was quiet for a moment. "Were the partners Eric Lawson and Brian Cole?" "Yes." "And you want to end the engagement." I looked through the windshield at the restaurant windows. My family was still inside, probably cutting the cake they had ordered for me. "Terminate all legal services with Martinez and Associates," I said. "No new matters. Preserve everything already in progress. Pay every valid bill. Give them the required transition period." Emily exhaled slowly. "You have authority over the technology. Security, IP, and compliance work. I'll review the engagement terms tonight and issue the notice through legal. I don't want special treatment. You're not asking for it." I added one condition. "Keep the reason internal. I'm not trying to humiliate anyone." That sentence hurt more than I expected. Emily asked me to write down what happened while it was fresh, so I opened my laptop and recorded the time, the names at the table, and the exact words my father had used. Then I attached the records that established my role, my appointment, my executive authority, and the approvals connecting me to the work Martinez and Associates had handled for nearly 2 years. The financial picture was already in our system, almost $900,000 a year in legal services. Enough to matter. Not enough to justify staying with people we could no longer trust. Emily called finance. Finance confirmed the outstanding bills. Our legal operations team contacted the backup firm we had already vetted months earlier. Compliance checked my original conflict disclosure from when Martinez and Associates was first selected. I had declared that Robert Martinez was my father. I had removed myself from the hiring decision. Now I was documenting why the relationship had become professionally impossible. My family kept calling. I muted them. At 9:12, Emily sent one-line notice delivered. "Transition begins immediately, across town. Thomas Reed, the managing senior partner, called my father." Dad did not answer. Thomas called again. A minute later, Jason texted me. Dad's senior partner called him twice. "What did you do?" I picked up the bent card from the dashboard and placed it beside my laptop. For years, I had hidden that title to protect my father's pride. Now it was the reason he was finally about to learn my name. The elevator doors opened with a soft chime. Emily stepped out beside me, carrying a slim folder. I carried nothing except my purse. The receptionist at Martinez and Associates looked up, then stood so quickly her chair rolled backward. "They're waiting in the main conference room." Of course they were. The glass walls made the room visible from the hallway. Thomas Reed sat at the head of the table. Eric Lawson and Brian Cole were on one side. My father sat opposite them, arms folded, jaw tight. He looked less like a man worried about losing a client and more like a father waiting to discipline a disobedient child. The moment I entered, he stood. Alice, this has gone far enough. Thomas raised one hand. Robert, sit down. Dad stared at him. Thomas did not blink. Dad sat. Emily placed the folder on the table. The paper made a clean, flat sound against the wood. For the record, she said, Alice Parker is our Chief Technology Officer and the executive sponsor for all outside legal services involving technology, cybersecurity, intellectual property, and compliance. My father's eyes moved to me, then to Emily, then back to me. She never told me that. I opened my purse and removed the business card he had bent at dinner. I placed it in the center of the table. You had it in your hand. Eric shifted in his chair. Brian looked down. Emily continued. Alice also had full authority to request termination of those services. My office reviewed the engagement terms and approved that request. Dad leaned forward. This is a family argument. She got embarrassed and decided to punish an entire firm. No, I said. This became a professional issue when you accused a client executive of fraud in front of your partners. His face hardened. I made a joke. I turned to Eric. Did he ask whether the title was real? Eric rubbed his thumb along the edge of his legal pad. He was kidding around. That wasn't my question. He looked at Thomas before answering. No. I turned to Brian. Did he tell the table I had invented an executive title? Brian swallowed. Yes. The heating vent hummed above us. I looked at Eric again. Did you laugh? His face reddened. It was awkward. I didn't know what else to do. You could have done what Brian did. Brian's eyes lifted. You could have stopped laughing. Dad slapped his palm against the table. This is ridiculous. You're costing this firm almost $900,000 over a business card. Emily opened the folder. These are the engagement records. She slid the first page toward Thomas. This is the annual value of the legal work. Another page. These are the approvals identifying Alice as executive sponsor. Another. These are messages sent under the name A. Parker involving matters your firm handled for nearly 2 years. Thomas read in silence. Dad did not. He was staring at me as if my face had changed. You were behind that account. I was responsible for it. You knew what it meant to this firm? Yes. And you said nothing you never asked. His mouth opened, but no words came. Emily placed the termination notice beside the bent card. All valid bills will be paid. Martinez Associates has 30 days to transfer active matters. No new work will be assigned. The decision is final. Dad looked at Thomas. You can't allow this. Thomas closed the folder. I can't force a client to trust us. This is my daughter. In this building, Thomas said, she is the client. Dad's confidence began to slip. He pointed at me. She's trying to destroy my career because I hurt her feelings. I kept my voice level. I removed your firm from work you are no longer qualified to handle for us. Qualified. You publicly mocked the person responsible for your client relationship. You accused her of lying. 2 of your partners watched. 1 joined you. Eric looked away. Dad pushed his chair back. Think about the employees. Think about the families who depend on this firm. We did, Emily said. That is why every bill will be paid and the transition will be orderly. Thomas folded his hands. Robert, effective immediately. You are suspended from client development and account oversight while the partnership reviews your conduct. Dad turned pale. Eric stopped moving entirely. Brian released a breath through his nose. Dad looked at me again, but the anger was gone now. What remained was fear. Can we talk alone? No. I'm your father. I glanced at the card between us. In this room. You're the partner who laughed at a client executive. His shoulders dropped, for the first time that morning. No one rushed to rescue him. I picked up my card, slipped it back into my purse, and stood, behind me. The coffee in front of my father had gone cold. He was still staring at the empty space where the card had been when the conference room door closed. The termination notice moved through both companies faster than gossip. By the end of the week, Martinez Associates had been removed from our active vendor list. New matters went to the backup firm. Existing files were transferred in stages. Every valid bill was paid. No public statement was released. No social media post appeared. No one outside the people directly involved needed to know why the relationship had ended. That was important to me. I wanted consequences, not spectacle. Thomas Reed called an emergency partnership meeting. Robert was removed from the executive committee and stripped of all client development responsibilities. He kept his title for the transition period, but everyone inside the firm understood what had happened. He had not lost a major client because of the market. He had lost it at a dinner table. Eric sent me an email 2 days later. He called the incident an unfortunate misunderstanding and apologized if his laughter had made me uncomfortable. I read it once, then deleted it. Brian's message was different. He admitted that he had recognized my name from prior legal discussions. He said he should have stopped Robert before the situation escalated. I replied with 2 words: "Thank you." An honest apology did not restore the account, but it mattered more than an excuse. My mother called every evening until I finally answered. "How could you do this to your father?" she asked. I stood at my kitchen counter, holding a mug of coffee that was still warm. "He still has a job. He lost his position. He lost a privilege." Her breath caught. "You know what this firm means to him, and you know what his approval meant to me." She had no answer for that. I told her I would not attend family dinners arranged to pressure me. I would not discuss the contract with Jason or Megan, and I would not meet with Robert until he could apologize without mentioning money, clients, or his reputation. Jason sent one final message: "You used your company to punish Dad." I replied I didn't take his career. I stopped funding his contempt. He did not write back. Megan asked to meet at the diner near my old college, the same place where I had once celebrated my first job alone with a slice of pie and a cup of bad coffee. She sat across from me in a cracked vinyl booth and stared at her hands. I looked away because I was scared he'd turn on me next. It was not a perfect apology, but it was honest. We stayed until the waitress refilled our cups twice. Weeks later, Robert mailed me a letter. The first page focused on what he had lost, so I put it away without finishing. The second letter came a month later. This time, he named the graduation he had missed, the job he had mocked, the dinner where he used me as a joke. I read every word. Then I placed the letter in my desk drawer beneath the bent business card. Neither one controlled my life anymore. A few months later, a young engineer asked for my contact information after a mentoring session. I reached into my purse and handed her a new business card. She read the title, smiled, and said, "I want to be where you are someday," I told her. "Then don't let anyone make you feel small for starting somewhere they don't understand." I no longer needed my father to confirm who I was. I no longer paid for peace with silence. Sometimes revenge is not ruining the person who hurt you. It is refusing to protect them from the consequences they created. If someone has ever laughed at the person you worked hard to become, share your story in the comments. Subscribe so you don't miss the next one. This time, the card opened a door.